Hey everybody, welcome to the Let's Talk Q&A show, and this is going to be the first one that we do live here on the channel. So welcome everybody, glad to have you on here. We're probably going to do this live every single week. That seems like that's what everybody wanted to do. That's cool with me. It takes saves me some time on the editing, which I really appreciate because that's usually the thing that takes me the longest. But now you'll see me screw up and stuff and everything like that. So whenever I misspeak, usually I cut that out. But we won't be doing that here today live. So you'll hear every single error that I make here today. We're going to start it off real quick with last week's Q&A show and with our winner of the question of the week. Last week's question of the week winner is Jose. Jose had question number 1 on the poll, if you guys voted on that, and that was the top 5 gangster films. Great one, by the way. So glad to see everybody who's in here now. In the live chat, Deathstalker Kevin's here. Actress of Movies is here. So we got a bunch of people already in here in the chat. Really cool. I know people will probably be watching this tomorrow on the replay, and I understand that completely. So that's why, we're going to keep this just like we do the regular Q&A show. There's a way for me to add the questions right onto the screen, so you'll see the questions just like that. But I'll take some questions right out of the live chat as well, which I'm always happy to do. And we'll do this for an hour to an hour and a half, kind of like if I was recording it at home. But again, it'll feel longer just because I won't cut anything out. And we're going to start it off with our first ever food review. I mean, we did used to do food reviews here on the channel way back in the day when it was still me and Matt. I'm sure Kevin remembers that when we used to the big thing with me is that I'm a very sloppy eater, and Matt thought it was funny that, I ate like that, like a caveman. So he wanted me to put it on the show. I have no problem doing that. I'm not a proud man. So anyway, but Taco Bell is my favorite food. You guys can see from the background. And I thought, hey, why don't we eat Taco Bell here live on the show? Well, actually, somebody asked me, Haunted Pillowcase asked me if I could review the new dipping burritos. And I figured while we're at it, I also got that new Baja Blast, dirty Baja Blast. You think it would be with alcohol, but no, it's just it's got vanilla in it. Let's see how that is first. It tastes exactly the same. I would not be surprised if that's just regular Baja Blast, but yeah, so let's see how it goes. And I got those dipping burritos right down here. Chicken and steak. And I also got those stuffed party churros. I don't know what that is, but it was all the new stuff. So I figured, hey, we're going to talk about some food. Let's talk about the new stuff, right? So anyway, I also got Diablo sauce because I'm a Diablo sauce kind of guy. So you see me eat. I don't know which is which. Oh, wow, they're pretty small. Look at that thing. I thought it'd be a little bit bigger. But anyway, put a little Diablo sauce. I'll open this up right here. I'll dip it in, right? That's the point of this. I think that's steak. Pretty sure it's steak. Yeah, it's pretty good. No, it tastes like something I've eaten before. But not bad. Not bad at all. You guys like Taco Bell? So, I can safely say this is pretty good. Now, I'm not going to eat it on the show the whole time. I'll enjoy it a little bit. I'll eat the rest later because, heck, it's about the Q&As, right? So I'd say that's pretty good, pretty decent. And then, I guess we'll try this dessert thing. I don't know what the hell this is. It looks like a churro covered in red cinnamon dust or something. I don't know. Does taste like birthday cake. Not bad, not bad. Not bad at all. Okay. One more. We'll actually get into the Q&A now. And we'll eat the rest of it later. I don't know. What do you guys think? You think it's worth it? You let me know. Gerard, a fan, mentioned this is still. I'm glad you guys are in here talking amongst yourselves too. That's cool. Go on a roller coaster and theme ride experience for swordfish or 12 monkeys. That's a good question. And then your Accuracy Movies also said your dogs seem very calm in your videos and nice. Mine is here too. Yeah, I'm a big dog lover. I'm a huge dog lover. I got 2 dogs named Leia and Obi. Somebody actually, Bill Whistler, asked me if I can get the dogs on the show. Maybe we'll try and get them in here. It's a very small room. I don't know if you guys can tell, but if I were to reverse this, this is a bit where I'd usually film the shows. Like I would have this in the background, so this is the other way, and those are all my movies behind me. So the room is kind of set up a little bit, strange and all, and it's not very big. So to get me and the 2 dogs in here, it'd be a little bit tough. But let's dive right into the Q&A portion of the show where we'll talk about movies. Oh, I took myself off. So, couldn't see me for a second. Faith Williams in the chat. Who's the handsome guy on the screen? You know who that is. My dog is right beside me laying down. Oh, that's awesome, Deathstalker. I'm glad to hear that. Let's see. How do I do this? What do I do? Slides and PDFs. And we'll go into all of the questions. Sorry, see, this is the thing about doing it live. If this wasn't live, I think I'd have a better grasp on it. But let's see. There's some Accuracy Movies questions. We'll get to those. And this question right here, question for next Saturday. What is your opinion of the movie The Brothers Solomon? I'm actually going to watch that movie again this week, and I'll talk about that next week. So that question will be on next week. Question for the next Q&A, and this is from The Dark Knight. And he said, my top 10 Eddie Murphy movies. And that's a great question. Eddie Murphy is a fantastic actor, one of my favorite comedians. And, it's a perfect time to talk about Eddie Murphy after last week, the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. And everything that happened on that. So, he's pretty famous. But anyway, Eddie Murphy came up through the 1980s. He got on SNL. I think he was only like 21, 22 years old. And got pretty famous on that show. So it was only logical that the next step would be for him to get into film. And the first film he did was the 48 Hours with Nick Nolte. And that's not my favorite. So we're going to start from the bottom. But from that point on, he became a pretty big actor. And I had a hard time picking a number 10 because I wanted to go with Dreamgirls because that's the one that earned him his first Academy Award nomination and all. But I'm not the world's biggest Dreamgirls fan. I feel like Eddie Murphy, even he himself has said that it's easier to earn an Academy Award for dramatics than it is for being a good comedian. He's got to act against tennis balls in The Nutty Professor, but that'll never get taken seriously because it's a studio comedy, which is unfortunate. So at number 10, I ended up putting Vampire in Brooklyn. That's a fun one. I'm actually in the mood to rewatch that. I might rewatch that actually later today. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. At number 9, I got Beverly Hills Cop 2. Now, the original Beverly Hills Cop we'll talk about a little bit later, directed by Martin Brest. But Tony Scott directed Beverly Hills Cop 2, and it feels like a Tony Scott movie. I mean, the smoky setting, the sunset, the magic hour look, that orange feel to it. Just smoke everywhere in that movie. It's a little bit more toned up on the action. Whereas, the first one, it's an action movie, but it's much more subtle in the original one. Whereas this one, it feels definitely like the cocaine 80s, as I like to say. And I was, I still really enjoy it. I'm a big Tony Scott fan, so I kind of enjoy, Beverly Hills Cop kind of set in a Tony Scott world because it does suffer from sequelitis. I can't deny that. You also get Mrs. Sylvester Stallone in that movie, and she's pretty good. She pops up in a lot of stuff in the 80s. So that one's at my number 9. And number 8, I got Dolomite Is My Name. And that was like the big comeback for Eddie Murphy that came out a few years ago. I think that's the same director that went on to direct Coming to America 2, if I'm correct. And I really like Dolomite Is My Name. It's about, the blaxploitation era and, Dolomite, the blaxploitation actor. I forget what his real name is, the actual actor that he's playing. Rudy something. I can't remember. I know it'll come to me later on, which will really annoy me, but I still love his performance in that. And, it was also a big comeback for Wesley Snipes, and he has my favorite part in the entire movie when it ends. Like when they finish the whole rap, everyone's excited. He's like, all right, guys, see you at the premiere. And he just walks out the door. It's absolutely ridiculous. Number 7, Life. I love the movie Life. Maybe it should be a little bit higher. I know my wife loves this movie so much as well, and it's a fun one. I really do enjoy it. Him and Martin Lawrence have surprisingly great chemistry, and just shows on the screen here. This one just doesn't get talked about enough, and it really deserves to be. And then at number 6, I have the Shrek franchise. I love the original Shrek movie, and Shrek 2 is pretty good as well. That wasn't the first time he ever did animation, Eddie Murphy, but people remember Donkey. I really remember Donkey. You could argue he's just as famous as Shrek. Shrek and Donkey were definitely the two stands out in the franchise. Eddie Murphy's voice is iconic. I love, just hearing him talk. And at number 5, I got 48 Hours. This is the one that started all, teaming him up with Nick Nolte. It's just your classic buddy comedy. Buddy cop comedy, even though Eddie Murphy's not a cop, he's a crook in this one. He plays the criminal. He's got 48 hours to help Nick Nolte out. And of course, these two, they start off hating each other. And then as the movie progresses, they learn to at least appreciate and respect each other. And this movie eventually got a sequel, another 48 Hours. And I do not like Another 48 Hours. I remember when I said that in my original review, people were upset. People must really like Another 48 Hours. Not a fan personally. Number 4, I got The Nutty Professor. The Nutty Professor came out in the mid-1990s. It was kind of like a mini comeback for Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy really was the comedian of the 80s. That's where he shined. The 1990s came along, and we got some new peaks behind the curtain with some other people like fellow SNL members, Mike Myers. Wayne's World came out in the early 1990s, and then of course Jim Carrey took off in 1994, even though he was successful on In Living Color. But then, what do you know? Eddie Murphy makes a comeback in The Nutty Professor, playing multiple roles, something he did in Coming to America, and it was great. He's great in that. Dave Chappelle's great in that. Jada Pinkett's great in that. Kind of put, for a lot of people, including myself, first time you ever saw Dave Chappelle, and he's great in that movie as well. So then at number 3, Trading Places. I love this movie with him, Dan Aykroyd, Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis, beautiful. One of the most beautiful women in the world. I'm not going to lie and say she's not, and she shows it in this movie. But it's really the stars of the show are Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. I always feel like Dan Aykroyd kind of gets the shaft on this movie. And he has a great arc in the film. Obviously he's, side by side with Eddie Murphy, and people kind of think of it as an Eddie Murphy film, and it is. And Eddie Murphy's great. But Dan Aykroyd is still phenomenal, and he has to learn a lesson. And I really liked how he has, because he's a piece of shit at the beginning of this movie. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys about that either. You want to see this guy get his comeuppance, but there's a point where you go too far, and that's kind of what happened in this movie. Is they just go too far on him, and that's how we end up with him learning his lesson. Him and Jamie Lee Curtis and Eddie Murphy teaming up for the end of the movie, and their little bet for $1. So I just always thought 48 Hours was a great 48 Trading Place was a great one as well. And then at number 2, so these two are really hard, I'm going to be honest, but I still am pretty safe with my number 1. But at number 2, I love this film, Coming to America. Him and Arsenio Hall had just great chemistry as well, both of them playing multiple roles in this film. And the movie itself is just starts off from beginning to end hysterical. A guy who just, he's going to go somewhere to find the bride he wants. He doesn't want to be in an arranged marriage. His father, James Earl Jones, is like telling him, this is the way it is. This is how I found your mother. And, aren't you getting everything you want? Aren't you sleeping with your, with your washers, with your wipers? Aren't you doing that? Isn't everything good? I want to find true love. And where are you going to find true love? Well, no place better than Queens, New York. And that's where he heads to work at McDowell's restaurant. The movie from there, just joke after joke after joke, while still being heartwarming. It is a rom-com. He is going to find his queen to be, and of course it all works out in the very end like you would expect. Coming to America 2, or just Coming to America, it's fine. The only funny part of that movie is James Earl Jones, just like he dies at his own funeral. What's up, Mr. Smelly Potato? Thanks for popping in. And Actress, the movie, I see your comments. I'm sorry I haven't been able to jump in and respond to them. Just I'll respond to those soon. I see it, and I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. And that brings me to my number 1, Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah, the original one, directed by Martin Brest. It's one of the best buddy cop comedies of all time. Axel Foley is one of my favorite characters. It's my favorite Eddie Murphy character by far. This movie tonally is very similar to another movie by Martin Brest that I like, Midnight Run. Both of them have very just similar tones as far as atmosphere. And like I said, when they jumped to Beverly Hills Cop 2, they turn everything up, sequelitis, and it feels like a Tony Scott movie. This feels like a Martin Brest movie. The jokes are a little bit more subtle, and it's also much more of a, I would say, friendlier movie is the best way to put it. It also has one of my favorite jokes ever is when he gets thrown out the window and he gets arrested. He's like, I just got thrown out a fucking window. Like, yeah, what did I do wrong? And they said disturbing the peace. So the original Beverly Hills Cop is a classic. I think that's the movie. Yes, Eddie Murphy was famous, but I think he climaxed right there. That's around the same time he did Raw, and that's just kind of what made him a superstar. So that is definitely my list of the top 10 Eddie Murphy movies. Leave me your answers in the comment section below. Actress of Movies just said, let me just make sure I said this. Actually said, "Coming to America." I love that. But the scene in the sequel that they add in Leslie Jones' date rape implied, wow, that is odd and rare. The rare sequel that can change the way I think of part one. Yes, that is something that I didn't like as well. Basically, like that he had a kid that he didn't know about. Kind of ruins the purity of what he was going for in the original movie. We never looked at him as that kind of character. So yes, it recontextualizes that character, and it's something that is very similar in the sequel Dumb and Dumber 2, another legacy sequel. Is you kind of try to undo the original. You can make your legacy sequel, but the best thing to do is try not to harm the original or recontextualize the original. And unfortunately, that's something that they did do to Coming to America. And, it's a legacy sequel through and through. It's got those moments, those callbacks. It's good for a one-time watch. And then, honestly, that's really it. Rogue One's here. What's up? Hello, John. Hello, everyone. How's your day going? Did I miss something, Haunted Pillowcase? Yes, you did. You missed the... I got them right here, though. I'll show you, buddy. I did already eat the Taco Bell, but I am a little hungry. I'll take a bite. That's the chicken. That's a Baja Blast. Really good, man. So I hope if you go back and watch my full review, I'll say it was absolutely great. Oh, and look at that. Poppin' Fresh is here. $49.99. Wow, buddy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Quick question for you. For a possible future show topic, animation films you would like to see get up the 4K treatment. For example, I would like to see Japanese animated film Steamboy come to 4K. It took 10 years to make that film. Yep, Baja Blast needs alcohol. I agree. Hey, I'll I could definitely recommend some Baja Blast with some alcohol. It'd be a great time. But yeah, as far as 4K Blu-rays, that animated films coming to 4K. And this is actually funny. We'll talk about this right now. I've been on the fence. Next week, Akira, or as I think the pronunciation is, coming to 4K Blu-ray again in a steelbook form. Came to 4K Blu-ray, I think, in 2021 without HDR here in the United States, while Japan had it. And then I think they sent replacement discs, or you could request them. I don't remember what happened, but I didn't pick up the 4K Blu-ray. I have the regular Blu-ray over there. But I might grab the steelbook because I am a big fan of animation, and we don't really get to talk to it about it too much here on the channel. But some 4K Blu-rays that I would love to see come from, obviously from like the animated world would be a lot of the Miyazaki films, a lot of the Studio Ghibli films. Some have, Disney owns those. That's why they haven't come to 4K Blu-ray yet. But Spirited Away, that's a big one. Everybody would love to get Spirited Away on 4K Blu-ray. Princess Mononoke, like I would personally love to get those on 4K Blu-ray. I have them on Blu-ray. I don't know if I'll ever watch. What was that, Ghost of the Fireflies? I don't think I could ever watch that movie again, but I might have to if it ever comes to 4K Blu-ray. But we'll have to wait and see. And Rogue One said, "Ooh, Taco Bell. I just had some grilled cheese and it was delicious." Grilled cheese is delicious. Grilled cheese burritos from Taco Bell are even more delicious. But other animated movies that I would love to come to 4K Blu-ray, besides like the studio, I think we've gotten most of the Leica movies on 4K. They've been pretty good. I would like Disney to go back and redo like The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. That's the only things. I just feel like Disney was lazy on their original 4K scans. And I know the thing with animation that a lot of people will question is, why do we need to go to 4K Blu-ray for that? It's animation. Can we really improve that? And high dynamic range will improve that. A lot of the Leica 4K Blu-rays, if you haven't seen any like the Leica stuff, those ones look like Coraline. Coraline is one of the best looking 4K Blu-rays out there. I mean, it looked great already just because of the beautiful animation that the film comes with. But that stop motion animation on 4K Blu-ray, is stunning. And we've gotten, I think, every Pixar movie. I don't think we got a couple that came out in the last few years. Eventually, I would like those to come to physical media as well. But those are some of the animated movies I would definitely like to see come to 4K Blu-ray. I'm sure there's some that I'm forgetting. There's plenty of Disney movies that haven't come to 4K Blu-ray. I'm sure anyone can jump in there and say, Haunted Pillowcase, is the show almost over? No, it's still very early, buddy. We're going to go for like an hour, hour and a half. So you're still here. Got plenty of time, plenty of questions. Don't worry about it at all. Here for the show. And Actress of Movies also said, or I'd cast, okay, Kevin Smith movies for him. Kevin Smith movies, we need more 4K Blu-rays as well. But that was a great question, popping fresh. But I'm hoping we get some, and especially some anime films. Those are getting more popular and more popular. I don't know how big of a fan of you are in anime, but I don't know how much of those have actually come, like Attack on Titan. I don't know if that's even had a physical media. I'm sure it's had a Blu-ray release, but I'm not too familiar if it had a 4K Blu-ray release or anything like that. But I know that's got a feature film that either is coming out or has come out. I'm not too in the current anime world. I really only know about like the films that came out like the 80s and 90s. Like Ghost in the Shell already has a fantastic 4K Blu-ray. Poppin' fresh, Sean. Thank you. Also, Patrick Stewart is one of the voices in Steam Boy. Wow, really? I did not know that. And he wrote, "Have a good show." Thanks, Poppin' fresh. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that super chat. I really appreciate it, buddy. Ace Actress of Movie said, Would you rather be teamed with Schwarzenegger in Red Heat or Jackie Chan in Rush Hour? Oh my God. Well, Jackie Chan in Rush Hour. As much as I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jackie Chan always finds his way out of anything. And he was saving Chris Tucker's ass throughout the entire Rush Hour franchise. Chris Tucker, he had the mouth to get them out of things or also get them into things. But Jackie Chan, he was slick and suave, and nobody's ever got. He is still one of the best martial arts ever. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about the new upcoming what's it called? I don't know how you guys feel about the upcoming Karate Kid that's going to feature like kind of blending all the worlds together. It's interesting. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy that. I'll have to check it out, but we'll have to wait and see. And Haunted Pillowcase said, Are you doing the giveaway for the Steelbook tonight? No, the Steelbook giveaway will be the second Tuesday or the first Tuesday in March. So probably a week from this Tuesday, if I'm doing my math correct. And that's for anyone who's a channel producer or higher. And that's any of those. Like, it's not just that. I have a whole stack of movies we'll go through for that when we get to that point of it. Jackie Chan, hands down, Poppin' Fresh said, Yep, we're on the same page on that. And Actress of Movies also said, Should Richard Dreyfuss have played the villain in Eraser or maybe the bad team owner in Driven? Oh my God, you remember the movie Driven? That's funny. Driven is I think I told this story, but I'll tell it here again. The movie Driven, it was a gift from my mom when I got my PlayStation 2, so physical media kind of thing. That's how I got my first DVD player. I'm a big NASCAR fan. My mother knows I love NASCAR, so she gets me the movie Driven. Has nothing to do with NASCAR, just knows that Sylvester Stallone's in it. So she got me that, and when you get a movie at a certain age and you're watching it, you watch it all the time. And I was definitely watching that movie a lot, so that would be funny. Richard Dreyfuss is I know my buddy Shamrock Balls loves Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss is a great actor, but he has a lot of range. He can play an asshole, he can play that guy that you absolutely love, and he can also do comedy. So there's a lot of range you could do for it, but where would I like to see him? I would have loved to see him be the bad owner in Driven, because he could do it, because he'll get under your skin. Do you remember him in the movie The American President? Like, he could be a piece of shit. I would love to see that. So that was a great question as well. Oh, you said you would team up with Schwarzenegger. Well, okay, I get that. See, that's what it's like having dogs. All right, let's go through and find another question from Rico Gomez. Here's a question for your question show. Do you buy movie character action figures of your favorite movies? So it's funny because I was talking to David, aka Shamrock Balls, about this, and all like the Hot Toys. I think it was Hot Toys. I can't remember the company, but they announced that they were working on a new T-800 from the Terminator 2 just from Terminator 2. And, it shows all these different things like the duffel bag, the minigun, everything, all these things you can swap out. And I would love to buy it. I don't know what the price is, but unfortunately, I'm just not somebody who has that much money. So I can't really afford to be buying something like that as much as I would love to buy those kinds of toys and have them on display. I also don't really have the room for it. Another question that Bill Wisley asked was for me to show off some of my memorabilia for films. And I don't really have too much of that either, if I'm being honest, just because Again, space is a big deal. I have a very small house. I own my house. That's a great thing. I know that I'm very lucky to have that, but this is a very small house, and it really kind of drags me down as far as space. Eventually, I'm gonna have no room for movies, so that's why I'm always kind of skimming through the collection. But I don't really have too much movie memorabilia. But I don't even like really bringing this out because it's something that means a lot to me. But I have an original final draft of the Terminator script. Terminator is my favorite film of all time. Kevin Kruger, the channel director, he actually gave this to me as a Christmas present in 2023. And like one day when I have more space, I want to like kind of put this on display. This is something that I like. Like it's unbelievable. It's just something I absolutely love. So like that's something that means a lot to me. I cherish this. And then another one is this right here. This is signed by Robert Zemeckis. Years ago, when I first started the channel, a guy named Dennis Cinema 4K followed the channel. He was sick and he stopped kind of responding. He always said like I think what he had was something serious, and he said like he might not respond anymore. So I think something might have happened. But he sent me a gift. The first gift I ever received on YouTube was this, the Polar Express. The 4K Blu-ray was coming out that year. I think it was 2022, and Warner Brothers did those 4K Blu-ray releases, Polar Express. Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation, and Elf. I'm sure I'm forgetting one. And they all came to 4K Blu-ray that year in honor of that. And he said, I also really love Polar Express. He sent me this signed by Robert Zemeckis. So I thought that was an awesome gift as well. But yeah, to answer that one question, I just don't really buy too much memorabilia. It's something I wish, but one day. I would love to display like old VHSs and everything like that if I ever had the time, space, and money. But that's all of us, right? We do the best we can right now. I just check out my my movie collection, and that's really it. I would love to get that Terminator script on display. That's something I absolutely love. Bill, I was just answering your question. And Bill, yeah, are you doing a giveaway for the Terminator script? No, I would never give that away. Bill, I got to talk about right here, buddy. Delicious. I'm just showing that all off. And Poppin' Fresh also said, "Holy crap, nice one, John. Both those need to be displayed for sure." Yeah, I don't really like to take them out because it's paper. I don't want anything to happen. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a very clumsy person, so I like to keep that stuff very, very safe. That script is still in the original wrapping, has a cover on it, thankfully. So because to prevent me from being me. Ackerson movie wrote, "Wow, great memorabilia. I have a Married to the Mob screenplay. That's a great movie, the original one, and it ends at a Crocodile Ranch instead of the honeymoon suite in Miami." You bring up a good point because when you do read original screenplays, you can see all the stuff that actually got cut out of the movie. Even little things and scenes, you'll notice like little things that got cut. Maybe they didn't have money, but you can see it all on the page, and that's always pretty funny because that's originally what they wanted to go out and shoot, and then things change. So it's always cool to have an original screenplay to see like where things were going and what they originally intended to do. And unfortunately, as always, things change. John Doe Juggalo said, "I love me some Taco Bell, but it's where I met the love of my life." Really, John Doe Juggalo? Really, Jeff? That's awesome. I told you guys that Taco Bell is a magical place. It literally made a family. One more do I need to do to sell you guys on Taco Bell? Now you have Taco Bell grease on it. No, believe me, I'm not that sloppy either, and this is not grease. There's nothing. I didn't get anything too bad. I wouldn't ruin that by being an animal. I ruined a lot though, but not that. I love that script so much. And then let's see. We'll go back here. We'll go through some more questions. That was a good one, Rico. Ackerson movies. Let's see. Critical thinking scenario. Yes. So this is actually very interesting. I may have mentioned this or asked this before, but as a critical thinking scenario, how do you think of Home Alone would be with a healthy Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder as Harry and Marv? So instead of Joe Pesci and I'm forgetting the name of Jam, but anyway, instead of the original two, Harry and Marv, we would end up with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, who had a great run in the late 1970s and 1980s with movies like Stir Crazy and See No Evil, Hear No Evil. We ended up with those movies. So they were a great comedy duo. And they would be a great Harry and Marv. It would be a little bit different. I don't know if they have the same kind of like Joe Pesci like is perfect for that movie. Joe Pesci brings a certain type of energy. I don't know if Gene Wilder, like I'm in my head, I would imagine Gene Wilder in the Harry role, and I'd imagine Richard Pryor in the Marv role. I guess you could do it either way, but in my head, that's how I pictured it. So it would definitely be a different movie. It'd be really funny, that's for sure. Richard Pryor's energy would be great. I would definitely love that. It'd be hard for me to not see Joe Pesci in that role. I think he really is perfectly cast. I do think though you could go a different way with Marv if you wanted to, but that's just my opinion. I definitely would be interested in seeing that. That's for sure. Important that Pryor would be the Pesci and Wilder as the Daniel Stern. So yeah, okay. That Pryor would be the Pesci. So, all right. So that's a different scenario. If Pryor's playing Pesci. Okay. That might actually work. That might be as a different scenario. That might actually work. Yeah. Okay. If Richard Pryor's playing Harry, I can see that a little bit. Okay. That might work. I agree. It just would be very, very different. It's definitely a critical thinking scenario. That's for sure. I personally can't picture that. I get that, Bill. Yeah, it's very tough. Home Alone is one of those movies that has kind of like been implanted in all of our lives for so many years. Of how can we possibly not like see Harry and Marv? Like that's always been Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci, the same exact year he did Goodfellas, like probably his two most famous roles. I mean, people will argue Raging Bull and Casino. I get that, but Home Alone and Goodfellas in the same year is incredible. Pop and Fresh wrote, I really need to see the movies Always with Richard Dreyfuss and John Goodman, directed by Spielberg, too. Always is good. I mean, people are going, it's very melodramatic, and I get why people don't love that, but I actually do like the movie Always, but sometimes those kind of schmaltzy movies appeal to me. Not all the time, but I'm always good for like a nice little schmaltzy movie every now and again. I'm not going to complain about it, that's for sure. And let's see what other questions we have in here. You had a video about the top 10 couples. So my question is, what are the top 10 odd couples? So this one's a little bit interesting. I actually made a list for this. I was a little bit confused on what to do on this. So I kind of was thinking more along the lines of like odd couples, like guys will team up. Either it's a guys teaming up, girls teaming up. Maybe it's an actual couple. So that's how I kind of tackled this question. I didn't tackle it like in the sense of like man and girl or something like Edward Scissorhands. That would be a weird couple, right? I mean, how do you deal with a guy with scissors? All the time. Emilio, so at the bottom, I had Emilio Estevez and Richard Dreyfuss in Stakeout. Like, that's an odd couple, younger, older guy. I think they're trying to age Emilio Estevez up in that. Me and David did a show on Stakeout. I think Stakeout's a great film. One of the best, definitely one of the more underrated buddy cop comedies of the 1980s. That one never got the praise it deserved, and it absolutely deserved it. At number 9, I got The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, which tie into the physical media aspect of the channel. Did have a 4K Blu-ray come out on February 11th that I wanted to grab. Now, I didn't get it because Second Sight is working on a 4K Blu-ray scan of it, and I feel like that'll probably be the better version. The one that came out last week kind of felt like Warner Brothers like, hey, let's put this 4K Blu-ray out there, and I don't think they put the same exact love and care into it that I would have hoped they would. So I didn't end up grabbing that, but eventually, what's up, Uncle Charlie? Glad to see you here, buddy. Eventually, I will grab that and review it, but it'll probably be the Second Sight 4K Blu-ray. Now, as far as Judas and the Black Messiah, I will probably grab that because I think that's still going to be the only 4K Blu-ray release, which is unfortunate. I mean, it might be a good scan. Warner Bros. Has been surprising me with their 4K Blu-ray scans lately. You can say what you want, and I do say it about the Blu-rays like not being included in like the bare bones packaging, and sometimes now not giving us good extras. But the scans have been great lately. John Doe Juggler, I wish we lived closer together. I think we'd be good friends in real life. The wonders of the internet have brought great friends to my life like you, John. Yeah, Jeff, honestly, you're a great guy, too. I wish we did live closer together. One day, I'll have to drive down the coast and come down there where you are. And I mean, you're not too far away, but I'm not a big traveler. I would love to. That's one thing that does kind of suck is that we all do kind of live spread out around the country. Because I don't really have any physical media collectors around me. I have my cousin, and that's it. But I have met some great people around the world who are just into the same kind of stuff as me. People up in Canada, obviously Ireland, and even throughout the United States. That's the good of the internet, like Jeff said, like that we can find people with similar interests, even in like similar subgenres like us. So it's very fun, and that's what I do love about this. And really just great people. Like for the most part, I have really run into some awesome people. Another question you'll see pop up is like, how do I deal with internet trolls? There's always a few trolls out there, but really it's not that bad. It's nothing really toxic. Like there's people who pop in and I try and actually talk to those people before I get mad at them. Just try and be like, because a lot of people are just looking for attention. The world's a lonely place. I can understand why people would want to but negative attention, like it might work somewhere else, but just talk to me. I'll talk to you. I never like to be rude to people. I might forget to respond to somebody, but that's just because life. And so going up on the list, continuing it, I got Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. So this is from 48 Hours. I thought they had great chemistry. It's not the first buddy cop comedy, but I think that's the one that really made the 80s buddy cop comedy formula take off. Personally, I always think Lethal Weapon is the best buddy cop comedy of all time. A little biased, but Lethal Weapon is one of my favorite films. I love the Lethal Weapon franchise. I'll even say that I like Lethal Weapon 4. I know that people don't love that one, but I love it. Next up, I got Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. This is kind of a couple. Did you guys think that this one will work? I mean, she's kind of just way out there, loosey-goosey, head in the clouds, lost her license. Meanwhile, Jack is a straightforward cop. He's going to do his job to the best of his ability. He's a serious guy. One of the first Keanu Reeves movies I ever saw. Like I saw that before I saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So I didn't really get to see, whoa, Keanu. I got to see serious Jack, in Speed the same year that Jeff Daniels plays two characters named Harry. He plays Harry in Speed, and he plays Harry Dunn in Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber is the bigger role, but hey, he's memorable. Oh my God, John Doe Juggalo. Thank you so much, buddy. Member for 15 months. I can't believe that. Oh man, I really appreciate that. 15 months of being a member. I can't believe I've been doing memberships this long. Thank you so much. But Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, I can't believe how long that they my mind's going. See, this is stuff I would edit out. I just, you don't buy into it. And it's funny because end up in Speed 2, Keanu doesn't come back and she's with Jason Patrick and they said it didn't work out. I believe that. I don't think that relationship would have ever worked out. Number 6, Rush Hour. Speaking of Rush Hour, come on, it's Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. This doesn't make sense. The thing that binds them is law enforcement and the passion of solving the original crime. Of course, they come back for 2 more movies. There's always been the hope of a third one. But the original movie, it's another perfect buddy cop comedy, this time in 1997. I think it was 97. And they just teamed up perfectly, and that's why people still want it. Number 5 might disagree with me, but I'm going to go Turner and Hooch from the 1980s. I could have gone with K9. K9 is actually one of my, I love the movie. It's a movie I bonded with my mom with when I was a kid. I actually have a German Shepherd myself, and I always wanted a male German Shepherd, and I wanted to name him Jerry Lee from K9. But if I'm being honest with myself, we're talking about Tom Hanks and Hooch, Tom Hanks won his first Academy Award for the movie Philadelphia. One of the people he thanked was Hooch because, I mean, in the 1980s, Big is probably the biggest movie he did in the 80s. I would say that. And I think Turner and Hooch, I love Turner and Hooch. I'm a big dog lover, so that movie obviously really appeals to me. But Tom Hanks doing comedy in the 1990s, that wasn't the norm. So it's always fun to go back. So I'd say that's a great team up as well. And just going through the chat. Wow, great choice again, Actress movie. Thank you so much. Have Hopper's son be the villain in Speed 3. Reteam Keanu and Sandra. Have them married and on a honeymoon in India. Tour bus taken over by by Dennis Hopper's son. That would actually be a good idea. Honestly, Keanu Reeves, they said he's coming back for Constantine 2. Why not have him come back and do Speed 3? I mean, everyone forgot about Speed 2 anyway. I had the VHS for Speed 2 and seen it more times. I guarantee, actually, there's nobody who's seen Speed 2 more than me because, again, just this funny story, same thing as Driven with Speed 2. I know I've told this story, so some people, longtime members, have definitely heard me say this, but I asked my mother for Titanic for Christmas one year, and what does my mother get me? She gets me Speed 2. She's like, oh, he must like boats. No, I liked Speed. I mean, no, I like Titanic. I like Speed and I like Titanic. I did not need Speed 2, but I saw Speed 2, so it's fine, and I enjoyed myself. Uh, let's see. Pop and Fresh. John, are you aware the Brutalist is available for pre-order at A24, releasing next month? No official date, but definitely next month. I pre-ordered on 4K. Pop and Fresh, I already pre-ordered it on 4K Blu-ray too. The day they announced it, I pre-ordered it. That movie, I'm dying to rewatch it. I didn't get to, like I told you guys on my original review, I didn't get to see it in theaters in the proper form. It was being released in IMAX 70 millimeter, but where I live on Long Island, we didn't get that, unfortunately, out here. So I didn't get it till it was in a regular theater. So, and honestly, it was like a very small theater, which was disappointing to me. So I didn't get to see it in the way it was supposed to really be seen. So I'm hoping this A24 4K Blu-ray is the proper way. And I love the movie. I thought the movie was challenging. I get what people were saying about the second act of that film. Me personally, I thought the film worked great. I think you need the second act. I really think that the second act is important to deconstruct the first act. Not going to spoil it though. I'm not. That's all I'm going to say. So because I know that not everyone. We'll talk about it when that 4K Blu-ray comes out. But yeah, I had to grab that. Thought on the Golden Child or the toy? The toy I'm not a huge fan of, but the Golden Child is great. The toy, that's the one with Richard Pryor, right? I mean, that's just, it's a little bit weird in the sense that, it's kind of like you're buying Richard Pryor. But I do remember it being entertaining. But speaking of Richard Pryor movies that are very underrated, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Moving from the 1980s with Richard Pryor. Personally, that's another one of my favorites. I get it. It's also, you get a young Dana Carvey. Like, he was just on SNL. Like, literally might have been the first or second year he was on it, because I think his first season was 86. But he's great, and Richard Pryor is awesome in that movie. I don't know. And Uncle Charlie, to answer your question, my next 4K Blu-ray review is going to be this Tuesday, where I'll be reviewing Amadeus on 4K Blu-ray. Beautiful 4K Blu-ray. And I'll be doing Cruising this week as well. So those will be the two 4K Blu-ray reviews this week. I'm really excited for both of those movies. Next up on the list of the best odd couples, we got Step Brothers. John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell had great chemistry when they first came around. The first movie they did was in Talladega Nights. Big NASCAR fan, NASCAR hat. So I was super excited for Talladega Nights. Loved it. Spoofed NASCAR perfectly. They had great chemistry. But then Step Brothers came around in 2008. And these two worked great together again. You couldn't ask for like a better comedy duo. And it's funny because when you think of John C. Reilly nowadays, because people came up and they saw him just doing straightforward comedy, he's great in Dewey Cox, which is a great satire of just all of those music biopic films. And people think John C. Reilly is a comedic actor. Well, John C. Reilly was more of a dramatic actor, especially through the 1990s. If you saw movies like Hard Eight or Magnolia, the Paul Thomas Anderson movies, this is a dramatic actor. Funny enough, between Talladega Nights, he also was in the other NASCAR movie most people know, Days of Thunder. So this is John C. Reilly's wheelhouse, essentially, is to do comedy, but in the NASCAR world. And I just thought, Will Ferrell's Will Ferrell. He has great chemistry with anyone, and clearly he had great chemistry with John C. Reilly. Hot Taco Bell tonight. Taco Supreme and a Nacho Bel Grande. I was going to get that. I was going to get the Nacho Bel Grande, but again, I don't want to eat on the show. And Mellow Fellas here, I gave him the wrong figure. Hi, John. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Glad you made it to the show. Only 18 minutes left of the show. No, Uncle Charlie, we're not going to end it at an hour. Like I said, the thing about this compared to like the regular Q&A show is me doing it live. I don't have to edit. The editing takes me way longer than to shoot the show. Usually when I was shooting the show, I would go for about an hour to an hour, 15 minutes of footage, and then it gets edited down to that like 40-minute to an hour range, depending on like what happens during the show. I get really nervous, not about doing the show. I get really nervous about things going wrong because I don't have a producer or anything. So sometimes, to give you guys another peek behind the curtain of like what I do here, you guys saw my video come out on Friday. I did 3 director and bankroll member reviews. I had to film that 3 separate times because the first time was terrible. I hated it. So I just reshot it. Shot it the second time, and then I lost the audio. So the audio, I couldn't use it. So I had video, and then I had the mic, like the camera's audio, which is terrible. You guys would hate that. So I lost this mic's audio right here. I had to re-record the video for a 3rd time. So, these are the things that happen when you have to edit. And, I get really doing it live. If anything goes wrong, you guys will tell me. So it makes it a little bit easier. And I can, hang out with you guys for a little bit longer than just an hour. I can hang out for like an hour and a half, whenever like my voice starts to hurt, really. That's the only thing. Actress the movie says, being Demolition Man would be. Oh, what, scroll up. See, there's the other thing. As long as you guys don't mind, being Demolition Man would or be in Hoth for the winter. Would I rather be in Demolition Man or be in Hoth for the winter? So I love the winter. Hoth doesn't look like a bad place. I would go to Hoth, no problem, from Empire Strikes Back, if there's internet. As long as I can watch movies, I would definitely love the calming setting of snow more than I would like Demolition Man. Demolition Man, they're a little bit too uptight. In the real world here, I do curse a lot. It's an unfortunate problem. Unless you edit, you have no idea how hard and how long it takes to edit yourself. Yeah, that's the thing. John Doe Juggalo knows. Make sure you guys are over subscribing on his YouTube channel as well. He's just an awesome guy, and you guys won't regret it. But yeah, the editing that's the hardest thing. I would, if I never had to edit, it would be great. But on the other hand, I like to do my 4K Blu-ray reviews. I like to edit that. I like putting the clips and everything in. But the Q&A stuff, you guys will see it now. Like, you see how much I stop, I stutter, and then when you go back and watch yourself, you're overly critical. DLS, do you still plan on moving from Long Island to Texas? I remember some time back you said you had been looking and wasn't an option maybe soon. So yeah, I was thinking about going to Texas. Me and my wife, we're still thinking about going to Texas, actually. So my wife is actually in school right now. She wants to either be a lawyer or a social worker. She's got about a year left until she graduates. And we own this house here in Long Island, and we bought this house in 2017. If you guys are familiar with the United States right now, not everybody watches this channel from the United States, but interest rates, they're very high right now. Horrible time to buy a house. Definitely a seller's market. I could sell my house for a lot more money than I could in a couple of years ago. But when you sell a house, what do you got to do? You got to go buy a house. So I don't know if we're just ready to have a high interest rate. And, right now we're just going to wait it out, see how she does for work. And, I'm doing this. Then I got my regular job and everything. So right now we're just not in a rush, feel it out, see how things go before we decide to move. Her sisters are in Texas. She goes to Texas every, couple of months to go see her sisters. But, right now we're just waiting, kind of feeling everything out. But yeah, Texas is still kind of an option for us. But, I'll admit, as you guys can see how light I am, it's very hard for me to get excited about going to a hot weather state. So I'm just worried about me, burning to death. Pop and Fresh said, not sure if East Coast Taco Bells have Mexican pizzas on the menu like we have here in California, John. I'm a gamer too, so Taco Supreme, Mexican pizza, and Pepsi, and what I usually get while playing Xbox. Oh man, I miss the days of being able to game and eat a Mexican pizza and drink some Pepsi. I was more of a Mountain Dew guy. But yeah, we got Mexican pizzas out here. We definitely do, and they're still delicious. California, though, you guys got a lot of things that I love out there. I lived in Vegas at one point in my life, but I haven't been to Vegas in a long time. But I used to go out there all the time. In-N-Out Burger and Fat Burger were some of my favorite places to go out in the West Coast. Would love to get back out there, California one day. We'll just have to wait and see. Didn't finish this list, guys, so I'm going to go back to it. So next up at number 3, I got Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy and Steve Martin. These two are great. Another one of my favorite movies from the 1980s. Thanksgiving must watch. These two comedy legends had great chemistry that you probably wouldn't have expected them to have, especially for the 1980s. Steve Martin, he's usually the guy who was loud and up front. Like John Candy, yes, this was kind of more like the John Candy we know, even though he kind of pulled it and reined it back too. Steve Martin really plays the straight guy perfectly in this movie. He's he's really stuck up, and you got John Candy here he's very loose, very friendly. Everyone likes him, but he really needs to learn a lesson, Steve Martin, and he sure does in this movie. Just fantastic at how good he is. And then Uncle Charlie just asked me, have you ever had to block someone on your channel? I've blocked 2 people in the entire time I've had this channel. And that really, for the most part, no, I'll just leave them. I don't really need to block people. I try and just talk to people. If you drive me to block you, it means you just wouldn't stop. Because if you just stop after a while, it's like, okay, then whatever, you can still hang out. Otherwise, no, I don't really block people. It's usually just those trolls. But again, very rare. Number 2, Lethal Weapon. We're going to have to go with... from Lethal Weapon, we're going to go with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. Like I said earlier in the show, I think these are the best buddy cops of all time. They had incredible chemistry. Probably didn't expect it. Danny Glover turns 50 in the first movie. He's getting too old for this shit. And what do you know? They throw a monkey wrench at him in this form of Mel Gibson, a suicidal cop because he lost his wife. And can you blame the guy? This guy literally has been just put through the freaking ringer. And now he's just out here trying to be a cop. But that's what gets him up every day. That's what actually makes him want to continue to do just live life. It's the job. It's the job for him. And he eventually learns through the franchise to find love again in the form of Rene Russo. But that partnership, he finds a new family with not with Danny Glover himself, but also with his family. They welcome him in. And that continues in Lethal Weapon 2. Like in Lethal Weapon 2, that's one of the best scenes is when he's talking about his gold pen and how him and his wife, the day she died, that gold pen, like he couldn't find the pen. And then the day she died, he found it underneath the couch, like that gold pen story that he's telling Danny Glover's wife in the second movie. It's just a fantastic, beautiful scene. Did you get the Uncle Buck 4K? No, I didn't get the Uncle Buck 4K. I wish I did, though. I'm going to get it soon. I'm just kind of waiting for a sale on that. So many 4Ks came out at the end of this. And Poppin' Fresh also said, dude, had In and Out yesterday. John Candy and Spaceballs, my favorite from him, but Uncle Buck is a close second. Uncle Buck is my second favorite behind Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I will get the 4K and review it here on the channel. Just been a tough, there's 6 movies that kind of came out right between February 18th and February 25th, and I had to kind of wait. I'll get Uncle Buck pretty soon. I'm actually trying to figure out what movies to get in the next few weeks to review. Thief is coming out on 4K Blu-ray. Chronos is coming out on 4K Blu-ray. I might grab those. And then, like I said, Akira's coming out. It gets a little slow towards the end of March, but Tommy Boy's coming out at the end. I heard rumors of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Kevin Hart and Will Smith. Let's boycott it. I can't believe. I know it's coming. It's coming. It's like the Terminator. It's inevitable. Hollywood sees money signs, and that's it. They know it's coming. And they know they're going to put money out there. But they know if they put these movies out there, people are going to come and see it. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So they're thinking that we'll bring in the old people from the 80s who were nostalgic for it. We'll bring in the new people with Will Smith and Kevin Hart. I don't know if I'd be interested in seeing it, but it is what it is, unfortunately. Do you drink Monster Energy? Uncle Charlie said. No, I don't actually. I drink Red Bull. I'm a Red Bull guy if I drink energy drinks. For the most part, though, I drink black coffee. Kind of trying to eat a little bit healthier. So I'm doing this increment diet thing where, you do 16 hours of straight fasting where you can just drink water and black coffee and that's it. And then 8 hours of eating. My problem is you see what I do with my 8 hours. I get Baja Blast. It's a problem for me. So, Mellow fell. Seriously, that sounds how it does. Accuracy movies, 86 Mets movie. Yes, I would love an 86 Mets movie. The 86 Mets, the greatest team of all time, maybe? I mean, they're like the 85 Bears, that team that broke through. The 86 Mets, they had a great documentary come out a few years ago. And at the end when they show the Mets winning that World Series. Now, this is the World Series where the Boston Red Sox blew it. Bill Buckner, the ball goes between the legs. You've seen it a million times if you watch baseball. The worst thing that could possibly happen. I mean, you feel bad for the guy unless you're a Met fan. And you're like, sorry, you're a hero to us, but you're definitely you suck for everybody else, which is a shame. John Candy turned down the Ghostbusters role, Mr. Smelly Potato. Yeah, he apparently it also kind of wasn't working out. Like he was bringing things to the table that they weren't really interested in, which is something that's very strange for John Candy. I didn't realize he kind of had that where he was invested in his character that much, and apparently it's just kind of mutual disagreement, which I heard at least. So that's pretty interesting as well. Back to the 86 Mets, baby. Yeah, I would love an 86 Mets movie. And I didn't tell you guys number one, the best odd couple in film. I'm going to go with twins Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. Can you do better than that? I don't think you could. They're definitely the greatest odd couple all the time. They tried again with Junior, which works to a lesser degree. I've seen Junior a million times, but unfortunately it doesn't work out as much. And it's a classic. John Doe Juggler just said, I know Criterion is your favorite boutique label, but which label are you keeping your eye on the most this year? So I always got my eyes overall on Arrow Video and what they're doing. That they're always special to me. Scream Factory, Shout Factory. 88 Films lately, though, has definitely been the one that's surprising me. Always got my eyes on Kino Lorber as well. Kino Lorber, they do phenomenal work. I know the problem with Kino, the one big negative I could say is I don't think I've ever been blown away. Where I said, this is 10 out of 10 visuals or 10 out of 10 audio from Kino Lorber. What they do is kind of they're like Criterion Light. They bring these movies to 4K Blu-ray that you wouldn't expect the other studios to bring to 4K Blu-ray. They're like movies like Out of Sight. Like people kind of don't talk about that movie, The Killing or Paths of Glory. The lesser known Stanley Kubrick movies have come from there. 3 Days of the Condor. I just always feel like they're kind of at the mercy of what the scan is, and they're not going to really go back and do a new scan. So sometimes their 4K Blu-rays aren't the greatest. Like, for example, Internal Affairs was not a great 4K Blu-ray. But on the other hand, you get a 4K Blu-ray like Brick, which was beautiful, or Kindergarten Cop. It looked absolutely gorgeous. So Kino Lorber, I always got my eyes on. I always hope they kind of like take that next jump to being like, because I really feel like the potential's there for Kino Lorber to be one of those great 4K Blu-ray labels. Like Second Sight, like it's really like broken in, and Umbrella's another huge one that really kind of came out of nowhere to me, at least until like pretty recently with that Super Mario Brothers release from last year. Aaron Click said Junior's just a weird concept. Only in the 80s or was it the early 90s? I think it was 94. Yeah. I mean, the scene, I'm sure you know, Aaron, when I'm talking about the scene with the Arnold Schwarzenegger's head on freaking the baby's body. That's scary. That's the stuff that haunts your nightmares. And you also get the guy who he pops up. He's Elliot from, I always forget his real name, Chris something from SVU. He's in that movie in a really blink and you miss it role right at the beginning. He actually has long hair, giant forehead, but long hair. What about the actual Odd Couple, the original? Right? You got to have the Odd Couple on there. I should have thought that. What is more important, the scan or the format? Uncle Charlie said the scan. Definitely the scan. Like honestly, there are some great Blu-rays out there. I mean, I review mostly 4K Blu-rays, but Blu-ray is a great format, and there are some great Blu-rays that are better than actual 4K Blu-ray releases because a 4K Blu-ray release, if the scan's bad, there's really not too much you can do. You could slap some HDR on there, but it might just come out looking sloppy. So why even do it? It's just really up to, in the eyes of the beholder. But no, I don't think Blu-rays are bad at all. I'll never sell Blu-ray short. If you just collect Blu-rays, that's just as good as collecting 4Ks. Anyway, whatever fits in your budget. I'm just all for collecting movies that any way you can. But the scan, I think, is the most important thing. And Kino Lorber's, they do this all the time. Look at Fletch and Fletch Lives last year. Those came to Blu-ray, but they were brand new scans of the film. So yes, they didn't come to 4K like a lot. Like, I would have liked that to see some HDR on there, but it's still a new scan of Fletch, so you can't be too disappointed in it, even if you get a little bit. What else we got here? Great 10 list. The main twist better. Odd Couples. Bella said Kino's Blu-rays of Mo Better Blues I thought was stunning. And that's the thing with Kino too, because you're talking about like Spike Lee movies. Spike Lee movies, a lot of them actually have come out through Kino Lorber. I think Son of Sam, Summer of Sam actually is out of print now, and I don't know what it is with Spike Lee movies, but for some reason they just do not want to put them on 4K Blu-ray or just give us new Blu-rays. Like we just said, new scans. Why is like the 25th Hour stuck on a double pack that's like out of print with He Got Game? Like, why is that the only way that we can get those great Spike Lee movies? I don't understand it. But luckily, like Clockers has a Kino Lorber Blu-ray release. It's just strange to me that Spike Lee is like one of our great directors of all time. Why is his Blu-rays why are there not enough scans of his movies on like new scans? I don't know. It's confusing to me. And he makes so many movies too. Do you like The Relic? The Relic is good. Yep, I actually think I watched that last year for the first time. Pop and Fresh said, well said, John. Blu-ray of Troll Hunter is right out there with many of my 4Ks. Troll Hunter, that's great. That found footage film looks incredible on Blu-ray. And yeah, that's actually one of the rare found footage films that I actually really love because it's a beautiful film. That was one that Frank from Frank's Medium Reviews recommended. I actually reviewed it for, I think it was last month when he was a director. Now he's a Bankroll member review. And I loved it. I really loved that movie. And I was like, see, this is what you need is in a found footage film, is it to look beautiful. And then it comes to Blu-ray and it's a great looking Blu-ray. Like that's like Independence Day. I never upgraded to 4K because the Blu-ray of Independence Day is gorgeous. Like it might be a better 4K, but is it going to be that much better? Is Spike Lee retired? Actually, no, Uncle Charlie. Spike Lee, I saw that he showed Martin Scorsese his newest film. I don't know what it is, but he said Martin Scorsese liked it. So he's definitely working. So he's got something coming out soon. I don't know when. I just want to make sure we get to the main topic on the header of the video, which is like the top 10 spy espionage films, because kind of keep answering questions in there. I've liked this format. I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. I don't know how people will feel in the replay, me kind of bouncing around, but I really enjoyed this. So we're going to go into the top 10 spy espionage films. And again, very hard, but this will kind of maybe give you guys a peek. Like, these are my favorites. I wouldn't necessarily say these are all the best. So at number 10, I got Mission Impossible Fallout. This was the second to last so far of the Mission Impossible franchise. And this one, like every Mission Impossible film, when you watch them, they all have like a distinct look to them. Like, you can kind of see like the new Mission Impossible movie that's going to be coming out. What's Final Reckoning? Which, if you guys own the Dead Reckoning 4K Blu-ray where it says Part 1, that'll be a collector's item pretty soon. But Fallout that movie really kind of made me get rejuvenated and get really excited for the Mission Impossible franchise. Like, they brought out the 4K Blu-rays for all of them that came out before that. Like, I was just could not wait for Fallout, and it lived up to the hype. Henry Cavill was great, led to Mustache Gate. It was awesome. I just loved Mission Impossible Fallout. That's kind of what took that franchise to like Ghost Protocol, still my favorite, and we'll talk about that obviously. But Fallout is a phenomenal movie, and I could not talk about it. And Mozart's Ghost here. What's up, John and chat? And Mozart, buddy, loved. I watched Amadeus last night. Loved it, but man, I've already seen the movie. But that 4K, we'll have to talk more about it. Number 9, Golden Eye. This is probably it is one of my favorite James Bond films of all time. This is the one for me when I was growing up. It was just a big deal. It led into the video game. This was Pierce Brosnan's first James Bond role. The franchise itself was on a long hiatus from the 1980s with Timothy Dalton. And I love Timothy Dalton. He kind of got the shaft. And then, unfortunately, that led us to, a long break. I think 6 years between that. And, we'll talk about the James Bond franchise and everything that's happened with that on the Let's Talk Physical Media show, because I got a lot to say on that one. But GoldenEye is still one of the best, and I love it. I love the score to that movie. I always forget the composer's name who did it, but he's the same one who did Leon the Professional, and I thought that was just a phenomenal score. Copy Fresh. Oh my God, Mission Impossible 4 is off the hook. Yeah. DRL, the best YouTube videos on these types of some topics mixed with the live chat, just bouncing around back and forth. Oh, thanks, DL. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. GoldenEye, N64. Oh my God, I played that game to unlock everything. You had to. Remember the paintballs? Like, you could actually, there was a cheat code, and then instead you were shooting paintballs. That was so ahead of its time. Like, you just didn't get that. I feel like everything Ghost Protocol I like everything Ghost Protocol up and been fantastic. Yeah, since Ghost Protocol, that's really where the franchise was kind of split in two. We had Mission Impossible 1, 2, and 3. They had their hiatus, and then we got into like Ghost Protocol kind of restarted that whole resurgence to the point now where that's really what Tom Cruise does. Like that, I think that his success with the Mission Impossible franchise is the reason why Top Gun Maverick was so successful. It was like just the perfect storm. Like, people were into Tom Cruise and what he was doing with Mission Impossible, that, they're like, okay, I can buy into this legacy sequel, because legacy sequels were not a guaranteed home run, especially in quality. Top Gun Maverick had no business being that good. And I really think it was just the perfect like storm, in my opinion. Let's see what Mellow Spell. Spike Lee's new Joint is a retelling, not a remake, of Kurosawa's High and Low, starring Ice Spice. Obviously, that did not need to happen. Yeah, and I'm sure Mellow Fellow, you could agree with me on this. He did an American remake of already a very famous film in Old Boy years ago that does not work, especially when the original Park Chan-wook Old Boy is a masterpiece of the genre. And I love Spike Lee, and I know you love Spike Lee too, and I'm going to see it, obviously. I'm definitely going to see it, but it's weird to go that route. But Martin Scorsese said he liked it. And I don't think Marty's one to lie, even though Spike Lee was one of his former students. Did I miss you taking off your shirt? Not yet, Kylie. Pretty soon. There it is. Eric Sarah did the soundtrack of GoldenEye. Thank you so much, Poppin' Fresh. I appreciate it. Where were we? We were at GoldenEye. Number 8, The Bourne Identity. So you see at the bottom, like, these were like the 3, I would say, blockbuster spy espionage films, especially through the 1990s and 2000s. Obviously, James Bond has been around forever. Mission Impossible started in the 90s, and then, well, it started as a TV show, then it became a film franchise. But then the Bourne series in the early 2000s made Matt Damon a action star. I don't think anyone saw that coming, especially if you saw the talented Mr. Ripley and you saw him with his shirt off. And that, speaking of people with their shirts off, you're like, this little skinny guy, but it worked. And the plot of that movie, I mean, I remember the trailers. That's something that always stood out. Like this guy who doesn't know who he is, but he's a machine, and you just got to bring it out of him. I loved it. And it's still my favorite of the entire like Bourne franchise. I think they've gone they've gotten pretty far along. I think they're done now. Taco would be smart to sponsor John. Taco Bell, I would think, if they ever sponsored me. I mean, I don't even have to lie. I absolutely love their food. I've cherished it from a very young age. One of my favorite traditions as a kid, and this is going to sound sick. I don't know what my mother was thinking, but after I'd go to the dentist when I was a kid, we'd get Taco Bell on the way home. I mean, after you just got your teeth done, I don't think Taco Bell's great for your teeth. At number 7, I got No Way Out. This is a 1980s spy espionage film starring Kevin Costner, Gene Hackman, Will Poulter, I believe is his name. He's in that movie as well. And then, of course, what's her name from Batman? Not even Batman, from Ace Ventura. I don't know why I'm forgetting her name right now. I've said it a million times. But anyway, in this movie, Kevin Costner, he's pretty big in the Air Force. Hopefully somebody tells me what I was missing. Didn't know what my mother was thinking yet. But anyway, you know, I think he's in the Navy or something like that. He's pretty high up. He's going to be working in the White House now. He's going to be working under Gene Hackman. But something happens, and Gene Hackman, his mistress, ends up dying. He ends up killing her. And they need to cover this up. And there's also this belief, and they don't have really any proof about this, that there's a Russian spy in the Pentagon, you know, and they got to find that spy, and they want to make sure that they blame him, even though it's actually Kevin Costner's this guy in there. Like, he's the guy running around who was actually seeing Gene Hackman's girlfriend, well, his mistress. You know, they kind of had a relationship, Kevin Costner and her, so he doesn't want it to get out that he was with Gene Hackman's mistress at the same time. So he's trying to do his whole thing while Gene Hackman's trying to cover up the fact that he killed the person. So you got this whole thriller throughout the whole movie. Do you have a six-pack, Kylie Tinkle said? No. No. I wish. Never had a six-pack in my life. I was close when I was 18. DRL, you've been doing some roundtable type stuff lately. Do you feel like you're sort of made it now when you're a group with Jake from Steelbook Obsessed and Tony Basement Blues and Ken Mid-Level Media? Yeah, I really do. Honestly, I do feel like I'm kind of like one of them, one of the big guys out there, you know. And honestly, a lot of that credit has to go to Frank from Frank's Media Reviews, just because he's great at network, which I am atrocious at, and it's just because it's a personality flaw in me. I'm really bad at reaching out to people. I always don't want to be a burden, so I don't ever ask really people to come like on my channel. But Frank, he's really good at that, so luckily he'll always ask me to go on these roundtables with him, and I appreciate it. It definitely makes me feel like, you know, like a little bit more important than I am, I'm sure, but it's cool. It makes me feel like, you know, I get to be out here with like the big dogs in the physical media world. You know, I think I bring something to the table that not everybody does. And so I'm really glad. Thank you. Maybe you have a six-pack of beer. That's the possibility. Number 6, now we got to have a comedy, a spoof of the James Bond franchise. Austin Powers, the original Austin Powers from 1997, International Man of Mystery. This is mostly spoofing the Sean Connery, Roger Moore movies, especially with like the villains. And the franchise would become 3 films, The Spy Who Shagged Me and GoldenEye. But the original one is still my favorite. My father would womanize, and he would just make up lies like he invented the question mark. It's just like stuff like that. Dr. Evil is one of the greatest villains in film history. Austin Powers ain't no slouch himself, but that movie is a perfect satire. It's a perfect spoof movie, and you had to have it on some of the best spy movies because it's, you know, covering that. Number 5, I got The Third Man. Now, this isn't necessarily a spy movie, but it is an espionage movie. I ordered the 4K Blu-ray from Lionsgate Limited, which kind of like, I really didn't want to spend that kind of money, but I'm really afraid that movie isn't going to come to 4K Blu-ray again, or like in a standard edition. I felt like I honestly had no choice but to get that. Like, that's kind of one of the things, and the negatives in collecting physical media is that you got to make decisions like that. Is it going to come back or not? And I was very worried that it wouldn't. So they kind of, you know, they got one over on me. I'm not gonna lie, because The Third Man was out of print, and I love The Third Man, and I didn't want to not have that on 4K Blu-ray. It's one of Orson Welles' best films. Obviously, Citizen Kane is his best film. It's one of the greatest movies ever. But The Third Man is no slouch itself, so I had to get that. Number 4, North by Northwest, the spy espionage film where the lead actor didn't know he was going to be in a spy espionage film when it started off. One of Alfred Hitchcock's best, definitely the biggest of the movies that he's ever made. phenomenal work in this movie. Cary Grant. It's beautiful. The 4K Blu-ray that came out from Warner Brothers. If the Searchers didn't come out and just outshine that, so they're both filmed in Technicolor, VistaVision. It looks beautiful. I would say that the Searchers was just a better looking 4K overall, but North by Northwest looked amazing on 4K Blu-ray. It has so many memorable scenes. Mount Rushmore is a great setting. It's one of the better Alfred Hitchcock films, I have to admit. uh Trying to think of some spy movies I like. Probably 3 Days of the Condor. It's a good watch this time of year, especially in New York City in winter. I agree. I had to do some revising tonight, exactly like Austin Powers' 75-point turn. Cat grew up where I live. Really? Did he really grow up where you live, Melifo? That's pretty awesome. So moving up after North by Northwest, I got Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Like I said, that is my favorite of the Mission Impossible franchise. This one is directed by Brad Bird, the guy who brought us the Incredibles 1 and 2 and the Iron Giant, the guy mostly known for being involved in animation. Then he also directed Tomorrowland, which starred George Clooney, I believe. I don't remember. That movie didn't do so well. I haven't seen it since it came out. But Ghost Protocol, I think what he brought to the table that was different. Obviously, this revitalized the franchise, but it kind of blended that blockbuster formula of adding comedy into it. Now, I don't know, like 3 was very serious. There really wasn't any comedy, but you add Simon Pegg, who is a comedian. I feel like, Jeremy Renner. The dynamic of the team, I think, was perfected in Ghost Protocol. And I also think it also had some of the greatest stunts, like everything in Dubai, whether it be him on the side of the world's tallest building or the sandstorm scene. Like, this stuff is iconic. I get the argument that the final, maybe it doesn't have as good of espionage stuff as like when they get to Rogue Nation, which that ties into Fallout, so it's like a two-piecer with those two movies. So I understand that argument, and the action I feel like does take a slight step back in the next movie, even though it doesn't have that great underwater sequence. I just think that there's some great set pieces in Ghost Protocol. I think I like the way the movie looks, like just a lot. It's a little bit more colorful, and we kind of tone that back for the next couple of movies. Like I said, every single Mission Impossible movie kind of looks different from the one before it. So, every one of them you can kind of pick out. Like the next one looks like it's going to be overly saturated and a much more colorful movie, kind of similar to Ghost Protocol. So I just love Ghost Protocol and everything that they did in this movie, tying it back to just everything in the franchise, who Jeremy Renner was, and like how his connection to Tom Cruise is. I love all of that, and that's why Ghost Protocol is number 3 for me. Number 2, 3 Days of the Condor. I think that movie is fantastic. That is one of the best spy espionage movies of all time. Max von Sydow's character in that movie as the hitman is one of my favorite characters in film history, because the way Max von Sydow plays that character, he plays it so subtly. A man who lives by his own code. The scene of him explaining of what's going to happen to Robert Redford's character, like how it'll be when he finally gets what, unfortunately what he has coming to him, is one of the greatest monologues, in my opinion, in film history. The way it's delivered, the way it's like, this is very matter of fact, but he's delivering like so lightly, like he's talking to a colleague, like he's talking to a friend, even though he's there to do a job. It's just that he's not there to do that job like he was early in the movie. Just incredible acting. And then obviously, the whole entire movie. And then that 4K Blu-ray from Kino Lorber is fantastic. I might have to watch 3 Days of the Condor. I just think that movie is an absolute masterpiece. Corned beef fan, Ackerson movie said. A little bit. We're getting close to St. Patty's Day. I actually work at a butcher shop as my regular job. So Amanda Cunningham said, how many questions do you have left to answer? Amanda, did you send me a question? Because if you did, I want to make sure, since you're here, I want to answer it, because I've definitely been doing a lot of jumping around, so I won't answer as many questions that I had planned, but I'm still going to answer a lot. And yeah, the end scene was chilling. So yeah, did you send me one? I just want to go through and make sure I get everybody that sent in some of the questions. I know I'm not going to be able to get to everything. But I appreciate everybody sending in all these ones. Sidney Pollack was one of the best. Absolutely. So anyway, that's going to bring us to number 1, and James Bond. Skyfall. I think that this is the best of the James Bond franchise, and it's always tying back into his childhood. So it really is the culmination of the entire James Bond franchise. Daniel Craig, James Bond's films were really like every other film type of deals. Unfortunately, Casino Royale came out of the gate swinging. Quantum of Solace was hurt by the writer's strike. Then Skyfall came along, and you had a great villain in Javier Bardem. Twice this guy's played, and obviously this is an Anton Chigurh levels of greatness, but still, you also had it's one of the best looking James Bond films of all time, just because of the guy who shot it. Richard Donner is the greatest cinematographer of all time. Did I say Richard Donner? But obviously that's not what I meant. But anyway, one of the greatest, Roger Deakins, who shot this film. It's absolutely beautiful. Sam Mendes is also a great director. Him and Roger Deakins probably go together again and make 1917, and that's probably their best team up when it comes to cinematography. But you could see a lot of 1917 in that last scene with the fire and everything. It's lit very, very similar. So that's why that has to be my favorite. What about The Patriot with Harrison Ford? That is a great movie. Butcher shop. You're just telling us this. Yeah, I work at a butcher shop. Always had jobs with food, but yeah, I mean that's kind of what I do. Always, I know my food. You always can trust me with food too when it comes to that. I mean, maybe don't trust me to cook it, but I'll guide you. There's no real hot babe in Skyfall, Rico says. Yeah, that is true. It's not really. It's kind of a, when you think about it, it's like a mother-daughter story, like a mother to her kids and how she treats them. When you really like boil it down, she's like Emma's like a mother to these people, and they really like from childhood you've groomed them, and you got to explain that. Also, the theme song is outstanding. It is a great choice. So let's go through. I have a couple other questions I definitely did want to answer. I don't remember who asked me this question. Oh, somebody asked me. Let's see if I can find it in here, because we got. Oh, here we go, Mr. Smelly Potato. What are your top 5 movies with a dystopian future? So I got a list for this as well. Is it? So at number 5, this one's a little bit surprising. I don't know how many of you guys have ever seen this one, but the movie Moon. This movie is fantastic. What's his name? Sam. Oh my God, I'm going to blank on his name. It's getting a little late for me. My mind's starting to go a little bit. So anyway, he plays the same character getting cloned essentially, and like it's a good it's looking at it like what could actually happen if we got our energy from the moon and there's somebody up there mining. Well, what if we just clone the same guy over and over? That way we don't have to pay anyone. We make him think he's leaving, but isn't that like inhumane? You're just basically creating slaves. You're basically creating a guy to keep working over and over and over again. Now there's a lot more twists in the movie I won't reveal, but I just thought that was just very interesting. It's very thought-provoking, and I've really enjoyed the movie so much. Can't really imagine a sequel to Shawshank, but anything is possible. That's the thing. What would you like better, No Country for Old Men 2 or Shawshank 2? I guess, I mean, how do you do a No Country for Old Men 2? Do you just bring back Anton Chigurh? Like, we know he didn't die, but everybody else is dead. We'll have to just wait. I would definitely like a No Country for Old Men 2 over that. At number 4, I'm going to go with Escape from New York, John Carpenter's Escape from New York, where we just make Manhattan Island into a prison. Makes a lot of sense. It does add up. So, but that movie, the score, the John Carpenter score, Kurt Russell is just fantastic in the lead role. Honestly, Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, another one of those, like, they went together like peanut butter and jelly. It didn't matter. Like, he plays a very subtle role in this, not much dialogue. As Snake Plissken, then he's playing Jack in freaking Big Trouble in Little China. He can't shut the fuck up in that movie. So just totally different kind of deal. Oh, let me go back into this one. What am I looking? So, Sam Mendes is a great director. I completely agree. Blade Runner is number 1 for me, says Amanda. Well, we'll have to wait and see if that makes my list. But at number 3, I got The Matrix, because we turn humans into batteries. And there's so much in The Matrix that still rings true today, 26 years later. The line in that movie that always stuck with me is that we tried to make you guys all happy, but it just didn't work. And I get that. Unfortunately, humans are flawed, and I don't think we can... I don't think we're destined to be completely happy, as much as I think we all wish we were, but unfortunately, I just don't think we have it in us. We're never fully satisfied. We're always on to the next thing. So I kind of get that. I get what he was saying. but that's an absolute masterpiece in just not just the action genre, but it's such a philosophical film. And just the fact of what we turned into. And then when we get into the other Matrix movies, we get to see more of that world. I like how it's a little bit more hidden in the original Matrix, and we're actually in the real world, or what we think is our real world. But I had to put that at number 3. Number 2, RoboCop, the ultimate satire film. This is a future I can see happening. That's for sure. And, new Detroit, that makes a lot of sense. Detroit here in the United States has struggled for a long time. I think if there was ever a city that they ever would try and rebuild, and came under private citizenship, to where the police force is privately owned, I could see it being like this. It's tackling so much things like capitalism, commercialism, all in this great 80s action film. I mean, it's so well done. Paul Verhoeven, is the perfect guy, and not even American, to direct this perfect satire of American culture, one of the great films of the 1980s. And then at number 1, Blade Runner. Absolutely. Blade Runner is one of my favorite films of all time. It makes my top 10. I'm pretty sure it's still in my top 10. I love the movie. Ridley Scott. He directed 2 all-time classics of 2 movies that I absolutely love, in Alien and in Blade Runner. Just 2 masterpieces. Blade Runner, though, that movie, it's a sci-fi masterpiece. The score is one of the greatest scores of all time, but in production design alone, in atmosphere, the way Los Angeles looks in that movie, how dark it is, and just how small the apartments were, that's something that I miss. And I think that a movie like that is why I have such a hard time with modern day films, is because you look at a film like that, and the amount of work that goes into the sets, into the costumes, and living in this world, a world you feel like you've never seen before, and they built this stuff. It's raining on Rutger Hauer's character. When you create a CGI set, you just don't get the same thing. Performing, what do they call that in that Disney, the round? It's just not the same. It's not the real thing. And it just absolutely drives me nuts. And that's why when you watch a movie like Blade Runner, an absolute 10 out of 10 masterpiece, and it's a real life set, it's incredible. And they dress like hotels. It's a lost art and film that I wish would come back. I know I'm not the only one. Speaking of dystopian future, Children of Men is an all-time favorite of mine. Seen it countless times, and it remains as fresh as the first viewing. A modern classic to mine. Great one, Mellow Fellow. Great show tonight, John. Enjoyed all the great questions. Thanks, Dead Stalker. I appreciate it, buddy. Ace of Akers was live is running, man, with free tickets to toppings all the time, and never have to compete or live in the high traffic areas of the raid building with RoboCop patrolling for you. The raid building, my God, imagine living in that building. It'd be crazy. Poppin' fresh. Yes, Blade Runner number 1 for sure. Evangelist on the score. Oh man, RIP. Atmosphere that Scott created. That man is untouchable. He's a master of his work. And that's the thing about Tony Scott. He's the brother of Ridley Scott. It's got to be hard. Demolition Man is great. Demolition Man would be in my top 10. That's for sure. Decker doing the voice camp test on Rachel is peak cinema. Oh my God. It's so heartbreaking. She believes that she's real. She has no reason to doubt that. And the way he just says it so matter of fact. Imagine somebody sitting across from you and says, implants, just like that. You find out your whole life is a lie and you were believing this. He just and he tries to apologize, but it's I don't know. You just ripped my whole life apart. And he wants to. Do you know how to use the 3 shells? Deathstalker said, no, I do not. Nothing today in 2025 looks like Blade Runner. Yeah, nothing looks like Blade Runner. It's incredible. It's almost like we went backwards, Rico, in a lot of ways, which kills me. But that was my list of that. So that was a good one. I really do appreciate that. I got to start thinking, what are the top 3 questions for this week? So we can pick them for the next week's the poll of the 3 Q&A questions. What are they going to be? What can they be? I actually got to look, because we answered so many in the chat. I'm definitely going to go with Mr. Smelly Potatoes, top 5 dystopian films. What do you guys think? Any ones that you thought were great questions? Yes, Amanda asked my top, right, Amanda? You asked the question about favorite movie to take place on a plane, right? If I'm correct, I think that was the question you asked. And if that is... Well, my favorite movie to take place on a plane. I think Flight is the best movie involving a plane. John Goodman and Denzel Washington is great as Whitaker. Turbulence is a great plane as well. No, what's your question, Amanda? I don't want to make sure I answer it correctly. Let me see if I can find it. But my favorite movie to take place on a planet. Let me see. I'm sure I can find it. I'm not good at it, but I'll find it. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. So you guys see, I have all this. Let me see. Hmm. Late 90. Oh, yes. So Amanda asked me about if it was a good movie to have. Would it be a good movie to have a plane that takes off in 1985 and then land in 2025? That was a good question. See, I do lose them every now and again. That's the problem. I need a better system. But yes, that is a fantastic idea for a film. I would have loved for them to do that. They did a show like that on Netflix a few years ago. I think it was called Manifest. But the problem with that is I love the idea. The show itself just felt like a generic TV show, unfortunately. They were generic studio TV show. There was like on Fox. So you could tell it was shot like on those like really cheap looking sets. Everybody is just too pretty. That natural TV look that I just cannot get into. So in that sense, it doesn't work. But there's so many things you can do with that. You just get on a plane. Think about it. We started off. We're in 1985. We're about to take off. Everybody on the plane doesn't even know what a cell phone is. Everything's just normal to them. Reagan's president. You can still smoke on the plane. You take off. You land in 2025, and the world you're walking off that plane into. It's got to be unbelievable. And to have no answers, the amount of time that's gone by, your family, like that's 40 years. They just assumed you were dead. To jump back into society, that would be absolutely incredible. Just exploring that, I think you can make a good that does sound like it'd be a good TV show, and I get why like Manifest kind of wanted to jump off with that idea, but I still feel like it'd make a better film. Laugh out loud, Ghostface impression. I don't know if I could do that. Like, surprise, Sydney. What's your favorite scary movie? No, I don't know if I could do that. But if you were frozen and could still listen to music, what soundtrack would you choose? Probably Blade Runner. Blade Runner or Batman 1989. Those are my two favorites. I do love the Titanic score as well. I think that's a great one. Aaron Kleck wrote, everyone on the plane would turn around, re-enter the plane, try to return to 1985. I know that's what I would do. I'd be like, what? This is what the world's like. We were promised so much. Like, we saw Blade Runner. We thought that was the worst we were going to get. This can't be. Imagine telling people from 1985 what the world in 2025 would look like just explaining to them what a cell phone is. It would be unbelievable. So actually, you know what, Amanda? I'm going to make that one of your questions too is going to be the question number 2. So we'll do question 1 will be from Mr. Smelly Potato, the top five dystopian future films, and then the top 10. This will be from Death Stalker, the top 10 spy films, because I thought that was great. And then Amanda's question about taking off in 1985 and landing in 2025. That's a great scenario. I think everyone can get into that. So those will be the top 3. We'll put those out for the poll for next week. And don't forget, Jose, you won this week, so you got to reach out to me. Mellow Fellas, I've been rewatching Brian De Palma films. I still feel like Blowout is his masterpiece. Yes, Mellow Fellow, I agree with you. Blowout is still De Palma's masterpiece. I've been going through a De Palma phase too, kind of slowly because I don't really have too many free windows to watch movies. But after last year when Body Double came out, I started just kind of rewatching. Like I bought Dress to Kill on 4K Blu-ray, even though right before Arrow Video announced theirs, I bought the Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray. So unfortunately, that just happens sometimes. I probably would have bought the Arrow one. But yeah, De Palma's Blowout is still the best. I mean, Untouchables is great. Scarface is great. Carlito's Way is great as well. The guy's made so many great films. But Blowout, that's 101 for me. That's absolutely the best. Who wins, Bob from About Bob or Pinhead or Ghostface? Bob. Bob would find a way. Relevant. Where do you rank Body Double? Body Double would be for me. I think that's number 3. Can you put it above? You got it. I might put Body Double above Scarface. I don't know. It's either 2 or 3. Alien soundtrack, Jerry Goldman for sure. That soundtrack is creepy and brilliant. I agree, Poppin' Fresh. That's so ominous. The music, the score, it's just beautifully done. Like, it really sets the atmosphere of the entire film. It makes you just want to watch Alien right now. How about explaining the male fashions of 2025? Well, honestly, Rico, I've seen pictures of my father from 1985. The amount of hairspray that men wore back then and the mustaches, it's kind of similar to 2025. It's just they were singing metal music back in the 1980s. That was the whole big difference. That mellow fella. I don't know if you saw, John. I just showed a new video, a lovely custom Blu-ray sleeve for ET. I didn't see that yet, but I definitely will as somebody who loves ET. That's my favorite Spielberg film. Mozart's Ghost. That's classic De Palma for sure. Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. So, Conan the Barbarian soundtrack. That's another good one, Deathstalker. So yeah, I mean, there's so many different routes you can go with that. Let's see. If you go to a dog park, you could bring 3 cinema dogs with you. Which do you choose? I choose K9, Hooch, and Beethoven. That's literally the 3 I would choose. When I think of movie dogs, those are the top 3. I mean, Hooch and K9, Jerry Lee from K9 are my 2 favorites. Beethoven was a movie I grew up with. Speaking of movies, we talked earlier in the show that are getting new 4K scans that are, only coming to Blu-ray. Beethoven, that's getting a new 4K scan, but just coming to Blu-ray. Kind of understandable. I don't think Beethoven's that popular anymore. I mean, I loved it when I was young, but I don't think it's that popular. Amanda said, "Are you done with the questions?" I'm probably done with the questions for now. Yeah, because we're getting in about an hour and a half. I'm gonna wrap it up and try to get out of here. My brain's starting to get a little foggy, and I don't want to start sounding too stupid. Airbud's great. So Amanda, you're going to be up, you're going to be one of the 3 questions that you could possibly win the digital code, depending what people think when they vote. So make sure you come back next week so we can answer, so you can see if you want. I can't watch dog movies. They are too sad. Amanda, I agree with you on that with Marley and Me. Marley and Me is actually a good movie, but it broke me. So I guess the last thing, I'll try and get my dogs in here to show you guys, and then I'll get out of here. What about Cujo? I had a Saint Bernard, and I'm telling you, I don't know how they picked a Saint Bernard to do Cujo. Those dogs are they're the dumbest dogs ever, Saint Bernards, but they're also the loveliest dogs. They're big dumb idiots, but they're so sweet. I had a Saint Bernard. She was the sweetest girl, Maggie. Just didn't live long because, unfortunately, I'm going to watch the Lakers now on ABC. I don't know if I can watch I hate the Lakers, and you can see how the Knicks are doing. They keep losing to all the good teams. I won't take John Wick's dog. Nobody's taking John Wick's dog. Let me see if I can get the dogs in here before I get out of here. Obi-Wan, come here. Come here. Come here. You want to come over here? Come here. I'll give you some food. Come here. What did you say? Come here. See? Nah. Yeah, all right, fine. No, you guys aren't getting Taco Bell. I'm not. I don't care. Well, that's the best I can do with them. Fur babies. Lay's over here, but she won't up in there. Top of them. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the live show. Let me know what you guys think for next week. If there's anything I should change around, leave your comments. Hope you didn't mind watching me eat Taco Bell at the beginning and the end of it. I had a lot of fun. I hope that this is the way we keep doing this. Definitely an absolute blast. Thank you, John. Poppin' Fresh, you're way too nice, man. Thank you so much, buddy. And thank you guys all for being here, me on the live stream. Thank you for being with you here on the replay. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, let me know what you thought. Good night, everyone. I appreciate you guys all so much. Thank you. It's up, Darker Reviews. I know we're letting out of here, buddy. Thank you guys all so much. I really appreciate you all. Enjoy your night, guys. Thank you. And good night, Stacy. Night, guys.